It's not an IS-3A. My top damage tank is not a Scorpion. My top damage tank at tier 8 is not a Progetto. It's actually, believe it or not, a TS5. Something I never would have expected to do in this tank, but this has my damage record at tier 8 out of all of my tier 8 tanks in the game. So guys, I got a good video coming for you in this tank, and if you stay till the end, or if you don't care to watch the video, skip to the end and watch the final shot of the game. And if it makes you smile, don't forget to subscribe. I'd really appreciate it. How about that new matchmaking, right guys? Check this game out. This is a dream right here. Well, if you look at the top tier tanks that I'm fighting, IS-3A, TS5, SU-130, 4202, it's actually a pretty good matchup. And I would give them a slight edge with an IS-3A over the OHO. So I have had higher damage games than this, but I chose to show this one because I thought it was pretty informational, because I am trying to be helpful in showing people how I play the TS5 and help you to understand what works for me, so maybe you can adopt a little bit of my play style in this thing. And my overall strategy in this is kind of based on matchmaking. So if I get a tier 6 or a tier 7 or an all tier 8 game, I play this thing like a heavy tank. This thing has 1500 hit points. I just go wherever I think most of the heavies are going to be. I got a dog in the background. That's Cosmo. And I just brawl them. I'm still trying to learn how this thing is going to end up fitting into the meta, because right now I think a lot of people just don't really know how to handle it or how to beat this thing. I have fought some people who are really good at shooting my cupola. Of course, the IS-3A is not going to do that very well. It's not very accurate. So I push up and I get into, out of all of the positions I've played in this tank, this is the best spot I've ever had for this thing, because my low plate is hidden mostly, and my weak spot, my other weak spot, is my cupola on the top right, which I'm hiding behind this wall right here. So if you end up in this tank and you're playing the left side of a cover, like I am right there, you can see it real quick. And this thing does fantastic in a position like this. And one thing you'll notice is that we haven't seen their TS5 so far. We'll see them in a little bit. So right now, we have an extra heavy tank in the fight, me, and we're going to try to win an important spot on the map. And if we can beat back their heavies here, we're going to gain access to this middle section of the map, which is generally pretty hard to do, because a lot of times when you're fighting in here, you get sniped. But we don't see their TS5, and I was wondering if he's going to come over here and fight me, because that's my strategy. But I end up finding that he's not. And that's the thing with this tank, is that I'm trying to think, why is it so good as a heavy? And I think that what happened with this is it's kind of like the 2684 when it was released into the game and it was very strong. Well, it didn't have a very accurate gun. So people who played the 2684 when it first came out, they would snipe with it. And then they would complain that this thing is a terrible tank destroyer, it can't hit shots, and it was not very accurate. The TS5 is the same way. And so here's their TS5. And he's trying to hit snipes down that lane, and who knows how many he hit, but I don't think he would have hit very much. And his guy's already dead. So if you play like that, especially while top tier, you're going to think this tank is bad. For example, if I get Himmelsdorf and it's an all tier 8 game, I go 8 line. I just bring this thing right up in people's face as quickly as possible, and I just fight. And even if they're penning me, I still trade out damage so quickly that I have a great game. But if they don't, then I just kill them. I actually got lucky and hit this guy on the cupola right there, which I don't really expect this tank to do, but it can do. That's the main takeaway from this video, is that if you snipe with it, you're better off being in a T28. And maybe that was kind of how Wargaming was balancing this tank, and they're comparing it to a T28 as a sniper. I mean, this is kind of like a 2684 all over again, except it's a little bit slower. It's way slower, and the cupola is easier to hit at close range. And so I'm curious to see how this tank goes on. Free damage. So yeah, guys, I lied about my stats this game. I just got like 800 damage for free, so I'm baking it. And so I'm wondering if people get used to fighting this eventually, and then I'm just gonna get destroyed on the cupola all day. But as of right now, This is my highest damage per game tier 8 tank. Period. Not premiums or standards. Of course, premiums have an advantage over the standard tanks for damage per game totals because I don't have to grind a premium tank. I don't have to play this with a stock gun. I don't have to play it with the stock turret. Well, it's a tank destroyer. So that gives me a huge advantage. And at this point, this game is already over. We've actually won both flanks, so it was a pretty easy game. Like I said, I did have one that was much better than this, but I wanted you guys to see the difference between what I did and what the enemy TS5 did. If you see these things, that's one thing that you're going to have to take into consideration with matchmaking is, if I go and fight heavies and the TS5 comes, am I ready to deal with that thing? Because in the hands of a good player, I think that's what's going to happen a lot, and this thing's going to be very frustrating. So at this point, I have full health, and I'm just chasing cleanup damage. So we light an SU-100, and I take a hit from the SU-130 PM, which actually I balanced that. That was pretty lucky. I think that the tank is a little bit inaccurate. He's probably aiming for my low plate and just missed. And there he goes, he hits it. And I'm lining up on the indicator there. This is why I have this reticle. I'm lining up the damage indicator with my reticle, and I'm trying to blind fire him. And he gets lit. I was a little bit off, and I think it might have been because I'm on unlevel ground. Here's the clip coming up at the end of the game that I wanted you guys to see. I love blind firing things. So the blind fire if the blind fire at the end of this game makes you guys smile, don't forget you have to subscribe. That was the deal we made at the start. Easy damage here, and there you go, guys. Thank you for the sub, PogChamp. I'll catch you guys on the next video. Appreciate you watching. Thank you everyone for subscribing, and I'll see you guys next time.